For those of you that are unaware, the Boston Celtics longtime GM of Danny Ainge has decided to retire and step away from his role as general manager of the Boston Celtics. And head coach, or should I say former head coach, Brad Stevens, has taken and accepted the role of president of basketball operations. So the head coaching job of the Boston Celtics is now vacant. So Kyle, my question to you is, what do you think about Brad Stevens accepting this position? And do you think maybe to the players, it looks a little on the bad side of him stepping away from the team from a day-to-day role to more of a general manager role?
I think it's an interesting move. I can't really say it's a good or bad move yet. I kind of have to see how things materialize over the summer. But just to kind of take it on its face value as it stands right now, I think from Boston's front office, I think it's a good move simply because Danny Ainge had a difficult time trying to bring in top free agent talent for the Celtics for probably at least 5 to 10 years. He was not able to get some big names. I know one in particular, granted, he was not a free agent, but Anthony Davis, they had the opportunity to get him in a trade package a couple of years ago. And I actually thought that the Boston Celtics had a more enticing package to offer the Pelicans for Anthony Davis, except he goes to the Lakers, joins LeBron, and ends up winning a championship for LA. So, looking back at that situation in particular, maybe the front office, and specifically in Danny Ainge's case, he may have been the issue there. But when I look to Danny Ainge, he was able to pull off one of the biggest trades of the decade, being able to acquire Kyrie Irving for the Cavs and only giving up Isaiah Thomas in the process. The fact that he was able to keep Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and a lot of the young players for Boston at the time, I thought was a huge deal. And I understand some players around the league didn't like how Isaiah Thomas was treated by Boston's front office. But when you look at that trade in perspective, I think as a front office, you have to make that move. You're getting a top 3, arguably probably the best point guard in the league at that time in Kyrie Irving. And while it may rub some people the wrong way, it's a move that you have to make. So I do have to kind of give Danny Ainge a little bit of credit. That is a feather in his cap in my book. But with Brad Stevens moving into that position now, it does give Boston, I think, a better chance in the future to be able to lure in some big name marquee free agents coming down the pipeline in a couple of years. It'll be interesting to see who fills in the head coaching vacancy. I don't know if it's going to be from within or if they're going to look externally, try to figure out if they can bring in a big name head coach to the Boston Celtics, because it does leave quite a void for Boston in that sense. But all in all, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for Boston. This is more of an internal structure realignment, but it'll be interesting to see Brad Stevens take the role of president of basketball operations.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for him. We all know that Brad is a player's coach. He has been since his tenure at Butler. There's never been any negative connotation behind him as a head coach or as an individual. So far as we know, everybody's always rant and raved about him being a great coach. So him kind of moving up to a higher personnel role to be in charge of acquisitions and trades and, like being able to attract free agents, I believe that that'll be a step in the right direction for Boston going forward, knowing that Jason Tatum has been dominant throughout this entire postseason in regards to himself individually. And, Jaylen Brown showed his value being out in Boston, struggling without him. So I think that they're maybe 1 or 2 pieces away from maybe building something again in Boston, because with those 2 young superstars, the sky's the limit for them. So I think that this is a great move for Boston going forward. And I think that this is phenomenal for Brad Stevens' career. And who knows, maybe next year we'll be in a whole different conversation talking about Boston in a better light.